Shalom, this is Michael Decker here from the law offices of Cohen, Decker, Pex and Brosh. Today I wanted to discuss a bit more about the law of return, and specifically about the rights of family members of Jews, and regarding assimilation and Jews who became members of other religions. So first of all, the law of return itself was enacted in 1950, and upon its conception, it was formulated in a way whereby it stated that every Jew can immigrate to Israel. Following two Supreme Court cases which created political uprising, specifically a case of someone whose name was Daniel Rofeisen and someone else whose name was Binyamin Shalit. In the year 1970, the Second Amendment to the Law of Return was added. And in this amendment, a Jew was defined in Section 4b to the Law of Return as someone who has a Jewish mother or a convert to Judaism, and that this person is not a member of another religion. In addition, because a Jew was defined, and until then also family members were allowed to immigrate, the legislator added an additional section called Section 4AA to the Law of Return, which basically stipulated that also a spouse of a Jew, a child of a Jew, a grandchild of a Jew, or the spouse of a child of a Jew and a grandchild of a Jew can immigrate as well, even though they're not defined as Jews in accordance to the definition which I just explained that's given to a Jew in Section 4b to the Law of Return. As time went by, the definition of who is a Jew was applied in practical cases. For example, there was a case of a petitioner whose name was Gary Beresford, who was Christian, or he defined himself as Messianic Jewish, and he tried to immigrate, and he argued that he is not a member of another religion, and that his belief in the New Testament and in Jesus does not constitute a change of religion. He submitted a petition to the Supreme Court and he lost, and it was defined that a Jew who basically adheres to the Christian religion changed his religion and is therefore not entitled to immigrate as a Jew in accordance with the Law of Return. However, this only applies to Jews, and family members of Jews, on the face of things, should be able to immigrate to Israel regardless of their religious beliefs, because they aren't defined as Jews to begin with. In addition, if someone has a Jewish mother that changed her religion before this person was born, this person could argue that he's not a Jewish by definition either, because his mother lost her Jewishness because of the definition to the Law of Return, because she changed her religion, and therefore the child of this mother can immigrate as a non-Jewish grandchild of Jewish grandparents through the mother that changed her religion, but and the grandparents that did not change their religion. Practically, people like this were actually given citizenship. The Interior Ministry did not like this, and the Interior Ministry tried to minimize the amount of active members of other religions to immigrate to Israel as family members of Jews. And in the case of a petitioner whose name was Zev Isaacs, the Interior Ministry did not want to give him citizenship due to the fact that he was an active missionary, even though Zev Isaacs claimed that he was not Jewish by definition, because his mother changed her religion before Zev Isaacs was born, and his father was Jewish and did not change his religion ever, and his grandparents, both on his father and his mother's side, were all Jewish, So he argued that because he's not Jewish by definition, because his mother wasn't Jewish, because she changed her religion before she was born, he should be able to immigrate regardless of his religious affiliation and regardless of his religious activity even. The Supreme Court, headed by Justice Hanan Meltzer, rejected his petition. And the Supreme Court basically ruled that to grant citizenship to someone who is an active missionary and to someone whose mother was entitled to immigrate but lost her eligibility because she changed her religion would contradict the objective of the law of return. After the case of Zev Isaacs, there was another case of a Muslim woman who was Jewish but became Muslim after she met a Muslim man. And in 1948 she moved to live with him in Shechem, Nablus, and she raised her kids as Muslims. And one of her daughters, who was raised as a Muslim, also married a Muslim man and raised her children as Muslims. And one of this lady's daughters discovered that her grandparents on her mother's side are Jews who were buried in a Jewish cemetery. And her marriage didn't work so well with her Muslim husband, and she decided that she wanted to basically return to Israel and apply for Aliyah as a Muslim woman that's interested in learning and exploring her Jewish roots. Her case also reached the judge Hanan Meltzer, and Hanan Meltzer rejected her petition as well, with the same argument based on Zev Isaacs' precedent, claiming that because her mother changed her religion already, and because she's a Muslim, it would contradict the objective of the law of return to grant her citizenship. Both these cases basically were heard in an additional hearing submitted by the movement for the Reformed Jewish movement by Justice Rubinstein. And Justice Rubinstein basically set a more clear precedent on the matter, and he basically explained that family members of Jews who had parents who changed their religion, who were Jews and changed their religion already, cannot immigrate, and that there is a chain effect whereby if a parent was Jewish and he changed his religion and he lost his eligibility, the child of this parent can't immigrate based on the fact that he has Jewish grandparents, meaning the child can't skip the parents to the grandparents, and that this is basically the precedent that was set based on the Zev Isaacs case and the case of this Muslim woman. So as of today, if you're a family member of a Jew, you can immigrate if you're a member of another religion on the face of things only if you have only a Jewish parent or a Jewish grandparent, and not if you have a parent that was a Jew and changed his religion, because that would break the chain. I hope that this was clear. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask us. And if you have any legal situation where you need help, you can also feel free to contact us. Thank you for your time.